Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So I guess I will pass volunteers. Yes, to Chris's dear friend Annie, who I've been saying all day, her language of love is cooking, and she cooked so many meals for Chris over the last year. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Very nervous. Can you hear me? Very nervous. So give me a minute. I'm gonna do it. So a lot of you know me, of course, and my history with Chris goes way, way back. And the history is this, that I take care of him. And by that I mean feed him. I can't remember what year, well, sorry, I guess, I can't remember what year it was, but I know it was at least 20 or more years ago. I remember how it started, the thing with me feeding him. It was Easter. I was making brunch, as I do. And he couldn't come because he was, of course, working at Magic. So later on in the day, I went down with a plate of food, brunch food, and I really can remember this like it was yesterday. He opened that plate and he was going, I got ham, I got potato salad, I got egg, like a leprechaun. And I think that was the beginning of it, of the food thing with him and I. And after that, we just shared so many, many meals together. So much laughter, conversation, food, obviously. Good friends, Troy and Fred, Bob and Tina, we had so many great dinners around the table. Nellie, I don't know where you are, but you were there with us. And right here at this restaurant, I had some amazing dinners with Chris. And the last time I had dinner here was what I called my double date. It was myself, Fred McLaughlin, and Chris Hurley. And it was a great night. And sometimes my husband Peter and I, but most of the time it was Troy and I, we would go to where Chris was working and sit at the bar and have lunch with him and sort of torture him a little bit and bug him and pester him and tease him. But he was always a good host, and I know he loved it. He did.
Especially when you ask for some fresh squeezed.
That's right, fresh squeezed. And then, of course, there was my house, where Chris knew he could always drop in for a meal. I can't tell you, and those of you who were there will know what I mean by this, how many Saturday, Sunday, or Monday evenings I would get a call or a text saying, Hurley wants to know what's for dinner. So, of course, Peter and Chris would come dragging home after happy hour, and I would feed them whatever family supper I had on the table that night. And then, of course, my care packages. I almost forgot about that. He loved my care packages. I made him everything from Halloween candy, pumpkin bread, Easter baskets, chicken soup. I mean, I could go on. But his very, very, very favorite thing that I made him was peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I would pack them for him when he was going up to Boston or just drop it off at the buoy for fun. He loved that. So anyway, we roll around to spring 2020, pandemic, we're all isolating. And I get a call from Chris one day. He's like, I fell down and bumped my head. And Bobby thinks I should go to the hospital. And I can't remember, Bob, but I think the ambulance was very busy that day or something. And that's why you said to ask me if I could drive you to the hospital. But anyway, of course I did. We had been isolated from one another for a while, but we just jumped in the car. I didn't hesitate. And I thought I was dropping him off there to get, I don't know, an x-ray or something. And he wound up staying in the hospital for 5 days. And that's when, got his bad news about his multiple myeloma. And lots of other stuff, doctor's appointments, tests, just a lot of scary stuff. So I picked him up 5 days later, and I go, he's coming over for dinner tonight, and it was really a no-brainer. We just kind of took him into our isolation bubble. That was So we kind of fell into a routine. Chris would come over about 4 in the afternoon and hang out with me when I was making dinner. We would watch a lot of CNN in those days because it was the presidential campaign. And we would do a lot of political commentary on a certain candidate that we didn't like. We played games once in a while, backgammon. He crushed me. Trivial Pursuit, I crushed him. We teased my husband a lot because that was the summer he was building the Yankee clubhouse, and he never wanted to stop building it to come in for dinner or snacks or anything. And of course, we watched a lot of baseball games. We watched games every single night. Chris would hang out till the mosquitoes started biting us because we'd be outside. And I'd walk him out to the car and he'd go home and we'd start over again. So another thing we did was each day when Chris would come over, I always throw something out on the table, choosing crackers, grapes, whatever it was. And as the summer rolled along, we started to eat a lot of watermelon because it was summer. So one day I bought a yellow watermelon, which Chris had never seen and did not know about. I know this is corny, really, but we decided to have a watermelon tasting. It's 3 people that don't drink, okay? We were really just having fun with the pandemic. So I went to the farmer's market on a Saturday morning. I bought a big hunk of orange, yellow, red watermelon, and came home. Sliced it all up on a beautiful platter. Chris came over, and I put it on the table. And I don't know why I said this. It's just something that popped into my head. I went, Chris, reflections on a gift of watermelon pickle. He rolled his eyes at me, as he could. And he was like, yeah, good. Let's eat this watermelon. And we did. So anyway, it really is a poem that I read a long time ago. And it's about a childhood summer memory. But when I read it again, it kind of touched my heart. So I'm going to try to read it. And I didn't have the title correctly, but I'm going to read it. Whew. Reflections on a gift of watermelon pickle received from a friend called Felicity. That's the title. During that summer, when unicorns were still possible, when the purpose of news was to be skinned, when shiny horse chestnuts, hollowed out, fitted with straws, crammed with tobacco, stolen from butts and family ashtrays, were puffed in green lizard silence while straddling thick branches far above and away from the softening effects of civilization. During that summer, which may never have been at all, but which has become more real than the one that was, watermelons ruled. Thick, pink imperial slices melting frigidly on sun-parched tongues dribbling from chins, leaving the best part, the black bullet seeds, to spit out in rapid fire against the wind, against each other. And when the ammunition was spent, there was always another bite. It was a summer of limitless bites, of hungers quickly fed and with the next careless gorging. The bites are few enough. Each one is savored lingeringly, swallowed reluctantly. In a jar put up by Felicity, the summer, which maybe never was, has been captured and preserved. And when we unscrew the lid and slice off a piece and let it linger on our tongue, unicorns become possible. Chris, till we meet again.
That was so beautiful, Amy. I've never heard that poem. So beautiful. I'm next or you're next?
Whatever you want to do.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Tall guy. Gotcha. Okay, for all you to present, don't know. Freddie McLaughlin, and all I got to say is, come here. The last 2 years of Chris's life. The last 2 years of Chris's life were brutal, but he never complained. When he had to go into the hospital in January, and for all those months, he was in prison. Nobody could see him. It had to be brutal. It was driving all of us crazy. And finally, Jen broke the ice. I don't know. I think she changed the whole policy at Stony Brook.
It was his birthday.
And we were allowed, never complained. There was one time he sold his car. It needed repair. I just sold his car. And myself and Joe Falsetti were up there. He goes, do me a favor, get my car, pick me up, and get me out of here. And I said, Chris, I'd love to. But anything, one of the things that amazed me about Chris was his almost 40 years of sobriety and able to hang out with all his hobos, plus deal with the characters on the other side of the bar. Chris also stepped up to help a few of the locals find their sobriety, which he did without. He was great. Chris also created. Chris was involved in the Claire Frank group, who's already been mentioned, that helped some of the locals in their time of need. Chris created a following, especially from his days at Mac. The sport pools he ran, the many golf outings he organized. Chris was a beacon wherever he was. I met Chris sometime in the early 90s with Billy Thorne. And we played many rounds together. Okay.
You're normal.
There we go. We had a few adventures in Massachusetts. Billy talks like infection shut his golf down. Lockman moved away, and then Chris started having trouble with him. There was this fellow who used to hang around at the bar at Hurley. There was a great old Irishman named Henry Connick, who Chris just loved. They both had this same surly attitude. Henry took some from it. It wasn't long before he paid their respects. As a walk at funeral homes, there was a bar close to him. And after 2 songs, we realized it was the second side of Abbey Road. All the sing-along songs. It was just Sun King, Mr. Mustard. She came in through the bathroom window. I remember going out a couple of bathroom windows. And then, in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you. I created a lot of love over these years, which is here. And that's
Say it
it.
again, Fred.
You're welcome. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And like I said, Christopher created a lot of love. So, Chris? Okay, who's next?
Robbie, my microphone might start. Sorry, I should have. So for those of you who don't know me, a list that includes Amanda, Brendan, Morgan, and Stephanie. I'm sure my cousins would give me the liberty of saying Chris was such a fun and irreverent, engaged, and loving uncle. Today is about celebrating Chris and his journey through life. He lived 69 years many of which Chris and I were not in each other's orbit. He was busy doing lots of things. My special bond with Chris really started to form as a teenager. Over the last few years, I learned so much more about Chris through the people that he personal love. Chris had a gift among many of having you feel seen, heard, and validated. For sitting with you and whatever you might be going through. I didn't think I would do. I thought I could do this. Listening, never judging, never trying to change you or it, just bearing witness. I truly experienced this gift at the age of 23 when my brother Matthew tragically passed away. I don't remember the details during that first pivotal week after his death, when I would have otherwise been alone in my mother's house. But Chris came to stay with me. In my faulty memory, he was there for weeks, but it was probably more like a week. He would sit with me on my mother's porch day after day, just listening to me, my grief, my tears, my questions about why. Sorry to mention you, but I have to. Chris's dear friend, who also played a pivotal role during such a fragile time. I'm meeting Freddie today in person for the first time. Chris reached out to Freddie to ask him a favor on behalf of me, a favor that Freddie graciously granted, and that forever will be one of the most special things any two humans have ever done for me. I'll spare you the intimate details of this favor, but know that Chris and Freddie being friends is no accident. They are cut from the same cloth, empathetic, and generous in spirit. It was after this new bond had been so intimate. I saw him as a protector and a friend who I could talk about anything with. My conversations with Chris were very rarely top line. We always somehow went deeper, talking about relationships and life. My fondest memories of Chris are of these moments. Over the past year or so, I had the privilege of offering Chris the same gift he offered me so many years ago. The gift of bearing witness to his journey through multiple myeloma, sharing in the grief of a dad. Conversation I ever had with Chris that got somewhat heated. Chris was asking me to let go of something he thought I was holding on to. Him that both can be true. Acceptance. We went back and forth for too long and finally agreed to table the discussion. I think about that conversation often. I make a living talking with people about letting things go. Acceptance, it is what it is. My journey with Chris through the last few months had me relating to letting go differently. So much to let go of in life, for him and all of us. And Chris held on so dearly to this life, the loves and one of my favorite poets, the belated Mary Oliver, wrote about the thing every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires in the Black River, whose meaning, not live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Chris, you have let go of this realm, moving on to the next, but while here, you did all three things Oliver mentions with such heart and such courage. You loved all that was mortal so dearly. You held it against your bones as if your life depended on it. And in the end, you let go. I, too, am letting you go from this world, but in so many ways, I and everyone who loves you will continue to hold you, your evolving love, the ever-changing relationship against our bones forever, as if our lives depend on it.
Hi, everybody. For those of you, we're reading trend, Amy's kids and Chris's nephews. Our sister Morgan helped us on this and came on the golf course. Most often with my dad and brother. Me and Trent know there's a little poop left in that diaper. But when we left the putt a few feet short of the hole. Even though Unc wasn't able to physically make it to mine and Jess's wedding a few weeks ago, he constantly talked about how determined he was to be there. And we know he was watching over us on that special day.
From my earlier memories of Unc, when everything felt right and complete. We love you so much, Uncle Chris. Thank you for all the memories, laughs, and moments over the years. We will carry them with us and will be in our hearts forever.
Hi. Should I raise it or you can all hear me, right? Great. Hi, I'm LJ, and Chris was a dear friend of mine. I met Chris in, I think it was May of 2006, when I walked into Magic's Pub as a representative of the new owners, and I guess kind of his boss. Magic's and the Dodger were very special places. They've been run by Billy Thorne for over 30 years. The staff and the clientele were well entrenched. As you can see from the pictures, Chris had a relationship with my daughter, Keely. She visited him at every bar he worked at from infancy on. And I whispered in his ear that everybody thought that I was here to, pay my respects to a dear friend. But the truth is, I wanted his Bloody Mary mix recipe, and I never got it. So Chris wasn't awake during his time at the Canis Center, which, if you're not familiar with it, I heard of it. I'd never set foot in it. It is an absolutely amazing place. The staff is amazing. The physical space is so comforting. There was a bird feeder outside of his window, and I brought bird food for it. And Jen told me the next morning there was a family of turkeys, some deer, God knows what. All the wildlife came to visit. So pretty much every day that he was at Canis, I spent at least some time there, giving Jen a little respite. And which has been in March of 2020. And he also snored like a Mack truck. And this wasn't just my loss, it was Keely's loss as well. And it's fine. So I was going to read this incredible piece that I read on Reddit about a decade ago. It's not written by a therapist, grief counselor, just an old man who's had a lot of loss. I don't know how much time I have right now. It's 5 minutes. Yeah? Okay. Sorry. So, this is the most eloquent and resonant description of grief that I've ever had. All right, here goes. Oh, it was a user on Reddit named G Snow. Somebody said, "My friend died. I don't know what to do." And this was his response. All right. I've lost friends best friends, acquaintances, coworkers, hang on and float. After a while, maybe weeks, maybe months, you find the waves are still 100 feet tall, but they come further apart. When they come, they still crash all over you and wipe you out. But in between, you can breathe. You can puncture a street intersection, the smell of a cup of coffee. It can be just about anything, and the wave comes crashing. But in between waves, you know that somehow you will, again, come out the other side. Soaking wet, sputtering, still hanging on to some tiny piece of the wreckage. But you will come out. Take it from an old guy. The waves never stop coming, and somehow you don't really want them to. But you learn that you'll survive them, and other waves will come, and you'll survive them too. If you're lucky, you'll have lots of. A little bit. It's okay.
I've known Chris. I knew Chris for probably 25, 30 years. I met him at Magic's. He was bartending. And colorful guy. We had a very warm and fuzzy relationship at the bar, as everybody knows. I would usually come in off of work, and I would say, and he would have his glasses down and looking over his glasses, and he'd go, "What do you want?" I'm going, I would like a drink. I have a drink, please. He goes, "What do you want?" It was banter like that, and I think everybody at the bar got to have fun of seeing me verbally castrated by and he the first day he was at my house started a little shaky. He came home from Magic's after working tired, walked upstairs and started to kiss on my side. It's a very shaky start. But 19 years later, we were still together. He was big and big before I met them. I'm just sorry I had to meet you under these circumstances. Oh God, you know. But she was an angel, and his last 5 days were spent at Canis, which I cannot say. He was able to pass with comfort and peace, but most of all dignity. He was able to die with dignity. And I'm going to miss him so much. Running down the stairs. What do you want, Bob?